So, welcome, Alice.
So good to be here, Kathy. This really is fun. This is a first.
Our first video interview. One of the interesting things about your life is that you grew up in the Shetland Islands of Scotland, off the northeast corner of Scotland.
That's correct, yes.
And I thought maybe you'd like to just share a little about that. What was that like?
It was, I look back on it and I call it idyllic, really.
Oh.
It wasn't that there wasn't hardships and we were aware of sorrows and so forth, but it was for a child, especially during summer days, because there's no night. We're at 60 degrees north latitude. And so we just played endlessly, and we usually played on the beaches, and we knew what the tides were. Our parents would trust us, to just play. And although they were hardworking people, my parents were very much devoted to the idea of children must be children and must be allowed to play. And so you grew up with that whole thing about just playtime being part of our lives. And also being listened to and heard and having opinions. So I credit that kind of background with a lot of who I am, obviously. Yeah.
Oh, that's a fantastic upbringing.
Yeah.
What did they speak a different dialect there? Did you hear?
Yes, we do. It's a mixture of ancient sort of Nordic languages, Scandinavian roots, and Scottish. So it's a dialect. It does not have a grammar, which, unlike the Gaelic of the Western Isles, they have a grammar. We don't have it. It's just a very, very strong dialect. It's hard to describe it. What's interesting now is with the influx of media and internet and the sort of homogenization of everything, when I go back to the islands, I speak the dialect in a purer form than the younger generation. Theirs is much more modified with anglicized words. But all our place names in the island, the geographical names were all had Scandinavian roots. Yeah, strong Scandinavian origins.
Oh, that's actually very interesting. I could say more about that, but I'm going to move on to W.B. Yeats, poet. He was quoted as saying, "Everyone is a visionary if you scratch him deep enough, or her deep enough. But the Celt is a visionary without scratching." Do you agree that somehow there is poetry in the blood of the Celtic people?
Yeah, I think I would have to agree with that, but not have any real scientific reason other
Okay.
than just thinking isolation. Our islands were 250 miles from nearest mainland. We were very, um, some people would say we were isolated. Yes, and that's not a good word anymore. It has bad connotations. But in the case you're more insular, and you're living close to nature. You're very aware of the weather elements. It's all a part of your life. You're up close to death. The older people die. They might be in your house. People leave. My father had to leave for long times. He went to the whaling fishing that's when it was not, a terrible thing to do that, but they did that for money. So I think that it's that sort of melancholy that kind of marches through the blood in any case, with the wildness and, yeah, and my father was a great lover of poetry. So that was just all just inculcated into me, not even knowing it.
This sounds a little like my grandfather, who is of
Hmm.
Scottish extraction.
Yeah.
Um, who is your favorite Scottish poet?
Well, I think that the national bard, Robert Burns, obviously he was a big influence. And again, he was my father's favorite. And my father had a photographic memory, so he could recite the longest poems, like Tam O'Shanter, just from memory, including the 119th Psalm, which Robert Burns obviously didn't write. But so that was a big influence. But actually, one of the most beloved Celtic poems is John O'Donoghue, who is Irish. So I'll just claim him as a fellow Celt right now. But oh, yeah, incredible, just incredible. It's just like an echo of fluid that goes through you. It's glorious. Yeah, yeah.
Well, that makes me think of the fact that when you and I first met, I told you that my name was Cummings, which is
Yes.
Scottish clans, Cumin.
Yeah.
And you said that you had some Cummings in your background, and so probably we're distant cousins.
I think we
Although
are.
you have been involved in Christian ministry, Bible teaching, both in the
Mhm.
UK and the United States. So I thought, as a Christian poet, maybe that's something we could ask you about. And in one of your poems, in fact, in your book, and I should be showing your book.
Yeah, look at
Oh,
that.
yes, beautiful. And
Yeah,
there's one called Emergent Epiphany.
yeah, yeah.
You kind of describe time when you sort of saw something in a new way and took a new path with your ministry.
Yeah, that really was an epiphany. I was living in England back then. My husband's work, whatever brought him to the United States, we went back again as the United States citizens to work in the Defense Department. And so I started ministry in the British Isles. And I had a sports car with an open top. And I was driving this rare, short, straight lane in England, in the country, with my top down, both very rare occasions. And I can remember it was truly was an epiphany. I was weeping, and I don't know the crisis, that's long forgotten, but I remember crying out saying, I don't want to know any more about you to God. I want to know you.
Yeah.
And that cry came from inside out of me. And then the answer was just, again, I will show you, but don't put me into your formulas. I was as clear as day. And so I remember sharing with my husband when I went home at night. And of course, he liked to have brief answers at night because he wanted to go to sleep. So he just simply said, you're probably going to be shown something you won't teach for a long time. And the truth is, you can't teach that. It is an epiphany. But it began to change. And I think the reason was I had Bibles that were color coded, yellow for prayer, red for redemption, whatever. And I was the one who knows where something is. I knew exactly where it was, could quote it, verbatim. And I was just, I knew it all. And I thought something began to stir. There's more to this. There's more relationship that I'm missing here. It's not about formulas. And yet I thought I was preaching, Christ in you in some form of grace. But I look back and think, it wasn't that full of grace as it is now. So that cry was really spirit instigated, and then I knew then that was the beginning of something new. And I didn't know how it would all transpire. Yeah.
We can write poetry, and I think quite a few Christian poets write about God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Preachers preaching about God, and we
Mhm.
know all about God. And sometimes it feels good to read those nice poems about God. But I do appreciate that your poetry comes from a heart of knowing God.
Mm.
That's
Thank
the
you.
kind of poetry I want to write and I want to publish.
Yeah,
Um, well, maybe you'd like to read that poem to us.
I will. For that, I will require the other eyes. Okay, so just I
Epiphany.
can get it right now. And it is Emergent Epiphany,
Yeah.
a rare stretch of straight English country road, a day of equally seldom seen sunshine, top down in my convertible, hair blowing, tears flowing. In a crisis of a long forgotten fountainhead, a cry from the soul of a fearless, fanatical Bible teacher with color-coded scriptures for every creature and every catastrophe. I don't want to know any more about you. I want to know you. Not from the open canopy of cerulean blue, but from the depths of a place in my soul I only vaguely knew, came the thundering truth with not a cloud in the sky, but opposed to my discouragement and dissonance. I will show you, but don't put me into your formulas. The birth pangs of a living relationship, ever evolving, God of grace beyond rubric and rhetoric, revelation beyond time and space, less certitude while knowing more, but less defined, more mystery, the habitual hankering of my heart, mind ready for rewire, heart already on fire.
Thank you. Thank you. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
A few years ago, how long was it ago? We Claudette published your first collection of poetry, which was Pausing in the Passing Places.
Yeah, that's
Which is a fun title. Maybe you could explain that again. I know you have in other
yeah.
places, but why did you
The
call
passing,
the book of poetry Pausing in the Passing Places?
the pausing in the passing places, in the country roads of the Highlands of Scotland, and there's they're just single lane roads. There's no line in the middle of the road. And they, every once, I don't know, maybe every mile, there's a passing place. So it's just that they extend the tarmac out. And if you see something coming your way, if you're on that side of the road, then it's your turn to go in. And you wait until, and it could be a truck. It could be a very slow little old Highland guy, you know, just nearly over the wheel, or it could be a flock of sheep with a shepherd behind. So you just wait. And so I took that analogy and I thought, you know, we just sometimes have to stop and just wait until everything goes by. It is so overwhelming. And that's where that whole title came from. Just pause. And then, or did you ask about unpaused, or am I jumping the gun?
Well, no, that's next, sure.
Oh, okay.
I'll just next. So this new book is Unpaused.
Unpaused, yeah.
What is the transition there? What is the difference?
Well, I did not know that we were to go through 2 years of pausing, basically, for very different reasons. The whole globe would. And so when I realized what was happening, so I thought the book would be unpaused. And then when this happened, I thought, wow, it is a time to unpause. It's a time to get out again. And but more relevantly to what my work is to be that real, raw, and relevant, which is just kind of segues from what we've just read. Let's just get real. Let's just not play games anymore. You know, let's just be who we are. And out of that reality, that's really what that's about. Let's just be real and raw. And yeah.
Right. So that is the subtitle of the book: Real, yes. Raw, Relevant.
And relevant, yes.
So I think that is really appropriate and really timely.
Yeah.
What we've been through with the pandemic and just coming out of it and being paused for a year and a half.
Yeah.
Taking some steps to come out and unpause, just kind of tentative. We had some people over Sunday, the old friends really from years, and it was a brand new experience. It felt so wonderful and yet a bit risky and a bit adventurous, and we were all just so happy, and we were all talking at once, I think, because it's like we've been let loose.
Happy is the word. We were in a restaurant and I heard all this sound, and I thought, you know, we were just all like a bunch of little kids. It's like everybody was your brother, everybody was your sister. You know, a family that was really happy again. Yeah.
3 families present, and there were 3 generations, and we're all just
that's
catching up and so excited. And
wonderful. I know.
Listening, I think so. But it's overwhelming. So I think your poems are really important right now to help us, give us courage and vision and purpose, and just a kind of new way of looking at life that maybe we haven't been looking that way lately. Certainly, we don't want to live in fear. I think that's one of our greatest challenges, greatest things to overcome.
No, fear really is. Fear is the real virus in this whole situation, and it is amazing how, I mean, we have families, you know, members, we all think differently about it. And the thing that everybody is free to do that, obviously, but the thing that, what's the motivator? You know, is it fear or is it, you know, courage? Because there is no risk-free world out there. You know, that's completely antithetical to faith. Yeah.
And if we're going to change our thinking from when you were growing up on the Shetland Islands, so free, thinking and living life. And I kind of grew up that way in rural towns of California. Ran free. I can't, at that time, I couldn't have imagined the world we live in today.
Oh, no.
If we keep going that direction, our next generations really just won't have that. They won't, it'll be completely different.
Yeah.
We don't really want them to just live in fear and safety, all about safety.
Yeah. I heard somebody famous who I forget, so I can't take the credit for it, was basically, I think it's from a movie, it's a line that said, in response to a question, but they'd rather be safe than free.
So yes, we need to unpause and get real, raw, and relevant.
I've been really thrilled that people are getting it, in the sense that they are seeing, and some of the poems that are quoted as examples have kind of surprised me. But yeah, I think that what I wanted to get over is basically, first of all, that we're so loved. That's just basically, that's my bottom line. That we are unconditionally, outrageously, furiously loved, as Brennan Manning said. And it doesn't matter who we are, what we've done, what we've never done, we are loved. That's period. So in that, and that was what I was to learn first from that day, that epiphany, that there was no performance that could change that love towards me. And that set me totally free. And I didn't realize how much performance I was hooked into, this, you've done this, and this. And so for me, it's that, first of all, just realizing that you're loved, and then out of that love, you can be free. Not the people say, well, you're going to, that's reckless, you're going to sin, because no. Love keeps you from sinning. It's not about I'm free to sin. So I'm free to love more because I am loved more. And out of that, there's confidence that comes. To be just who you are is just so awesome. And then I'm not afraid to touch topics that might be considered. In fact, I have a poem about cussing, and I don't use any cussing words, just not scare anybody. But it just was to illustrate that, they're just consonants and vowels, and we string them together and it feels good. But no, they're not our highest form of prose, obviously. But I just thought that was kind of, I had to kind of toy with that at the beginning, does God still love me if I say that word? Or, it sounds ridiculous, but that's how inculcated we are with our performance. And so I want people to see that. I just want to be free for them to see that God's love is so extravagant. And there's another poem about the plenty of God. We always talk, I talk with, the universe is a friendly place. There's no lack anywhere. But right now, in this age that we're living in, everything is lack. Everything is going to run out. No, it's not going to run out, because that's who God is. So really that, and I've been pleased with the reviews, very, very pleased, quite thrilled and grateful and humbled. Yeah.
Do you want to share a little of how you compose poetry? What is your process? How does it come to you? How do you write
process? Yeah.
How do you edit it? How do you work on
Well, I mentioned, I know what's required. I know the constructs and so forth. And I like to play with that. And I like every poem, not every single poem, but I think I employ all the constructs and free verse and some good old, iambic pentameter and pentameter. But I'm just more organic, I think, in the sense that whatever works to get the passion of my heart over. And, there's strange things when you look at your own work, you can say, I love it. Sometimes I look at it and think, oh my gosh, I don't get it. It's all just terrible. It's awful. There's nothing there. And then another day I'll come and I'll think, oh my gosh, dang, that's good. And you can say that, not because you're bragging, but because I believe everything I've written takes on a life of its own. It's like birthing a child. You brag about them because they're who they are. And so that's, my process is very random. I'm just very, very, very random. But I had a good editor who always kind of keeps me in tow. But yeah, and it'll sometimes a stanza will just come. And I was thinking back, what was the really first poem I ever wrote? And it was when my father died. And I actually got that published in a local magazine. And that just came just like that. Maybe I would edit it now a little differently. So some need a lot more editing than others, let's put it that way. Yeah, I can look back at it. I'm not so in love with it that I'm not going to make it the very best, because I want you to understand it. Yeah.
That's a big part of writing of any kind, is rewriting.
Yeah, editing. Yeah.
And that's when you really have your audience in mind.
Yes, exactly. It's not just about me regurgitating what I'm feeling. Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Well, would you like to read another poem for us?
Oh, yes. Well, this is kind of a fun one.
A lot of good ones.
Yes. Okay. And it's called Dull Ears, Loud Thoughts. What? Please stop mumbling, will you all? And that line, by the way, comes from my friend back in England, who said, will you all stop mumbling? And I said, are you wearing your hearing aids, Sally? She said, no. I said, okay. So please stop mumbling, will you all? I want so much to respond to to the call of whatever you say or see. Just stop and think of the aging of me, whose ears have heard 1,000 bird songs where the painful political speech is way too long. The first to hear you cry as you entered the earth, to rejoice in your good news, weep in your dearth. Whose ears have heard pronouncements so dire, outbreaks of war, a world forever, somewhere on fire. A woman who bore the pain of hearing she's less than, scalded with wounding words from too many men. Whose ears of the heart have stores of sagacity to share, whose soul longs to divulge the diversions through despair, to those who would listen and hear, to those who would come close, come near. So come closer, beloveds, face to face, lean in till I can feel your breath, a long journey retrace. Tell me your story too, I so want to know what you think and feel. Curiosity I will never outgrow.
That's beautiful. It's very
Thank you, thank you.
I know our audience will enjoy it. I know people will enjoy your poetry, and I encourage them to look it up.
Okay, there it is, it's there. And get the twin, the one that was born 2 years before, right?
Right.